Ever wondered what kids did for fun before smartphones, video games, and even television? Let's rewind the clock and take a journey back to the 1900s, a time when leisure was spelled a little differently. Life for children over a century ago was a world away from what we know today. Work often started young, especially for kids in rural or working-class families. Chores were a big part of daily life, from milking cows at dawn to helping with the family business after school. But it wasn't all work and no play. When they did get a break, their world of fun was imaginative, hands-on, and deeply connected to their communities and the great outdoors. The early 1900s was the golden age of outdoor play. With fewer cars and sprawling cities, the streets, fields, and forests were a child's kingdom. Games like hide-and-seek, tag, and hopscotch were classics, just as they are today, but they were played with a different kind of freedom. Kids would roam their neighborhoods in groups, organizing their own games without much adult supervision. This was a time of independence. Imagine spending your entire afternoon building a fort in the woods with your friends, only returning home when the streetlights flickered on or when your mom called you in for dinner. Marbles were a huge craze. Kids would carry their precious collection of Aggies, shooters, and cat's eyes in a small pouch, ready for a game at a moment's notice. They'd draw a circle in the dirt and spend hours trying to knock each other's marbles out. It was a game of skill, strategy, and a bit of luck. Another popular street game was stickball, a precursor to modern baseball. Kids would use a simple broom handle as a bat and a rubber ball, turning any city alley or quiet street into their very own stadium. It was all about resourcefulness, using whatever was available to create their own fun. Jumping rope wasn't just a solo activity, it was a social event. Girls, and sometimes boys, would gather to chant rhymes while two friends turned a long rope. The rhymes were often intricate and passed down through generations, telling stories or silly jokes. There was also the game of jacks, which could be played on a porch step or a patch of smooth ground. Tossing a small rubber ball and scooping up the metal jacks required serious hand-eye coordination. These games taught rhythm, coordination, and the art of taking turns. For kids in the countryside, nature was their playground. They'd go fishing in a nearby creek, climb trees to get the best view, or swim in the local swimming hole during hot summer days. Winter brought its own adventures. Ice skating on frozen ponds, sledding down snowy hills on simple wooden sleds, and building snowmen. This connection to the natural world was an integral part of childhood, fostering a sense of wonder and adventure that didn't rely on manufactured toys. But what about toys? They certainly existed, though they were often simpler and more cherished than the mountains of toys many kids have today. For girls, dolls were a beloved companion. These weren't just plastic figures. They were often made of porcelain, bisque, or cloth, and were treated like real babies. Girls would spend hours sewing tiny clothes for their dolls, hosting tea parties, and creating elaborate imaginary worlds. Dollhouses, sometimes homemade from wooden crates, were another treasured possession. For boys, toy soldiers were a favorite. They could stage epic battles across the living room floor, recreating historical events or inventing their own. Wind-up toys, made of tin, were also magical. A simple turn of a key could bring a little car, a drumming monkey, or a dancing figure to life. Building sets, like Lincoln Logs, which were invented in 1916, and erector sets, allowed kids to construct their own log cabins, bridges, and skyscrapers. These toys encouraged creativity, problem-solving, and fine motor skills. The family was the center of entertainment. In the evenings, before the radio became common, families would gather in the parlor. Someone might play the piano while everyone else sang along. Reading aloud was another popular pastime. A father might read a chapter from a classic adventure novel like Treasure Island or The Adventures of Tom Sawyer each night. This shared experience not only provided entertainment, but also strengthened family bonds and fostered a love of literature. Board games also brought families and friends together. Games like Snakes and Ladders, Ludo, and checkers were played on simple cardboard or wooden boards. These games taught sportsmanship, strategy, and how to handle both winning and losing gracefully. Card games were also popular, with families playing everything from simple matching games to more complex ones like Rummy. These simple pastimes created moments of connection and friendly competition. Of course, not all children had the same experience. A child's leisure time varied greatly depending on their family's wealth and location. Children from affluent families might have had access to more elaborate toys, private lessons in music or dance, and vacations to the seaside. They might have had rocking horses, tricycles, and beautifully illustrated books. In contrast, children from poorer families had to be more creative. Their toys might be handmade, a doll crafted from a corncob, a wagon made from a wooden box, and old wheels. Their games were born from imagination rather than purchase. But the joy and ingenuity were universal. The rise of public spaces also changed how children played. Public parks and playgrounds started to become more common in cities, offering a designated, safer space for children to play. These playgrounds were equipped with swings, seesaws, and the newly invented metal slides, which were a huge thrill. Libraries also became more accessible, opening up a world of stories and knowledge to children from all backgrounds for free. A library card was a ticket to countless adventures. And let's not forget the simple pleasures. Going to the local candy store with a penny to buy a piece of licorice or a handful of gumdrops was a massive treat. The rise of silent films in the 1910s and 20s offered a new and exciting form of entertainment. For a nickel, kids could be transported to a world of comedy, action, and drama, watching stars like Charlie Chaplin on the big screen. It was a magical experience. So, while a 1900s childhood might seem simple or even tough by today's standards, it was rich in its own way. It was a time of community, creativity, and connection to the world right outside the front door. Kids learned to make their own fun, to solve their own problems, and to build strong relationships with friends and family through shared play. They didn't have endless entertainment at their fingertips. They had to create it. And in doing so, they developed resilience, imagination, and a sense of independence that defined their generation. Looking back, it's a fascinating glimpse into a different world of play. It reminds us that fun isn't about having the latest gadget, but about curiosity, friendship, and the incredible power of imagination. Thanks for taking this trip back in time with me. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more journeys into the past. See you next time.